And as a salesperson, I can quickly log in, and I'm sent to what we call the sales side of our application, which is a series of, as Dick referred to, master value propositions that have been published by marketing. And they're made available to me to choose and use, both to prepare for my meeting coming up and actually in the meeting itself. So these are our value propositions that I'm able to quickly determine based on criteria, whether it's which product I'm focused on, whether it's which industry that I'm headed into, or maybe region of the world. And I can quickly scroll down from, I believe it was almost 80 value propositions, down to just a handful by choosing the criteria and then opening up the value proposition. And so as you can see here, I logged into our website. This is an online value proposition. I'm able to use this at the customer site as well via laptop or tablet. So as we see here, this is actually trading compliance software. And so I'll do some work preparing for my meeting, and maybe I have a meeting coming up with a company called ABC Financial. I should probably spell it right. There we go. And I can choose to do some preparation of this value proposition before, but maybe I'll actually wait and start to have the conversation when I'm in front of the client. And typically, in many cases these days, clients are expecting to have a salesperson come in and kind of roll into a very large PowerPoint presentation. But we'll take a slightly different tack today. And what we're going to do is basically ask permission or talk to the prospect about sharing a simple case study with them about the value that we've provided companies just like theirs. And it should only take us a few minutes, and that's what we're going to show today. So as we can see here, there's sort of some main messages at the top of the screen. Very simply, based on some analysis that we've done prior to our meeting, what the company is doing today in terms of their manual trading compliance efforts, we think we can automate with software. And in fact, doing that, we can save them over $230,000 a year. Now that's a significant dollar amount, and in many cases these contracts may go over 5 years. And so looking at a 5-year span, that's almost $1.2 million in savings back to the client if they choose our software. So what we want to start doing is confirming with them some of the assumptions that we've made. But the first thing we might do is confirm, is that dollar amount something that is going to be important to them? Really what we're trying to do is qualify the opportunity. Is that dollar savings something that they'd be willing to bring forward? And hopefully it is, because it's a significant amount of money. But it's important to qualify the opportunity and then begin to talk through some of the assumptions that we've made. And we can see those assumptions in the white boxes underneath here. So before we do, we can see what we've estimated as essentially the cost of the manual processes that the company is incurring today. And I'll switch this back to an annual basis. So we're estimating that, in this case, ABC Financial is spending almost $500,000 a year because they haven't automated these processes. And this is based on some criteria that we talked about, the number of employees, and maybe they actually correct me and tell me there's 2,500 employees at the company today. And maybe they actually correct me on the number of bond trades per year as well, and that's close to 100. So I can begin making changes to the information, and those changes are updated automatically as I do that. And you can see that the changes are actually highlighted, and we'll see in a moment how those changes ripple through the rest of the value proposition. But as I'm sure you're all looking at, and as most people do, is this very large red bar, which is essentially the money that we think we can save them on an annual basis. And assuming that they're interested at this point, that's the area that they're going to be focused on as well. So let's drill into that. And we do that by showing the information in a slightly different way. So we have different capabilities in terms of different charts that we can use. In this case, the chart essentially breaks down that over $500,000 cost at this point into three key areas, and we can read them right here. More efficient compliance, employee retention, and risk reduction. And we can actually see how the costs are split out there. So what we've done is sort of taken a step down and drilled in a little bit on the detail, but we'll probably want to go further. They'll want to understand, well, how did you come up with these numbers? And if you notice, these three areas match the three buttons underneath the assumptions. And what we're able to do is start to step through and have conversations about the specific business drivers and really our thought process and how we came up with these numbers. So for example, in our creating or automating their compliance efforts, we think we can save them money. In this case, it's almost $300,000 a year. And we'll do that by reducing their compliance cost. Now, there's details in terms of how we came up with this information that we can choose to go into if we want to, or we have the ability to point the customer or the prospect to various either case studies, which will talk through how we came up with the logic and maybe what we've done with another client, or other videos and research, which we'll see in a moment. So we can see here the chunk of value that we're talking about in terms of more efficient compliance. We can go to the next one, which talks about improving employee retention. And so today we have estimated that with the size of their company and the type of industry they're in, they're having approximately a 10% voluntary turnover on an annual basis. And again, we think we can improve that by 5% by essentially moving towards software versus their manual processes that they're using today. Again, if we get feedback that, well, their turnover is actually 8%, then we can make those changes and that will be updated automatically as well. And then finally, risk reduction. We've taken a stab at what we think their risk, the cost of a compliance event is today, and we have some evidence about what we've done with other clients in the past. And we have evidence potentially in a video that we can run. Maybe it's a 60-second video that the prospect can listen to. Or maybe we have a white paper which talks through the logic of how we came up with our numbers in terms of what the cost of a risk event would be, and maybe there's some information about how we improve that or how we automate that. So we have the ability to walk through those with the prospect live, or we can certainly send those afterwards to back up some of the information that we shared. And so the kind of the three key business drivers, and hopefully we've gotten some agreement or maybe some disagreement, but we've updated our numbers based on that. And there's other ways that we could actually show the information. So if there's different ways we want to talk through the case, we can set up the charts to show up in different order to help our conversation. And in fact, this chart here talks about the incremental investment, which would be $288,000 per year for our software. But if they did that, they would save $223,000 a year in addition to that investment for the company. So I'll go back to the first chart here. So two more things that I'll show you before we wrap up. One is once I've kind of come to some agreement with the prospect, we can save our value proposition and make it specific to the customer. And once we hit OK, we save that back to the main set of value propositions, but only the salesperson can choose to have access to that, so they can save that for themselves. The other option here is to export a PowerPoint presentation. And so if we choose to, we can export a standard presentation that contains all of the new information and the new data that we talk through with the prospect. And it contains charts and similar information to what we saw here with the online value proposition. So with that, I'll wrap this up. But I think our goal here is sort of twofold. The first is really to qualify the deal and to make sure that the person that we're talking to and the opportunity is important to them. But second, we really want to show them the value of the opportunity and show them the significance of it so that we stay on their radar and we can move the opportunity forward. We can get access to a higher level of the organization and hopefully eventually, end up closing the deal. So one of the questions that we sometimes get is, how do we get started with something like this within our organization? And the way we typically engage with clients is through what we call a proof of concept. And the way that works, we try to keep it very simple, is we work with the prospect at this point to develop one or more value propositions for some of their key products, and we allow them to test the value propositions over a period of, say, a couple of months. And they're able to see the value proposition and then get feedback from the sales force about how it works and get some real information before signing up to be a LeveragePoint client. And we've had a lot of success with this process, and we're happy to talk with you about it.